Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's time for another tier list as we get ready for VCT 2024 Masters Madrid, our very first international tournament between all the partnered leagues of 2024. And this time it includes China getting through their own VCT China kickoff. So that's exciting as well. Now we're all on the same level playing field. And of course, we're going to have 8 teams. It is a bit of a smaller tournament than we're used to for Masters. But if you're looking at the team logos at the bottom of your screens, then you'll already notice that it's looking to be pretty exciting. Lots of new faces, and of course, lots of new players as well. Now, I'm a little torn because I do think this is the first Masters in a long time where really anything could happen. I don't think it's going to be like a crazy thing. I don't think any team is going to be that team that wasn't supposed to go on a run and they win. I think every team has pretty good potential, but at the end of the day, we're still going to have some teams that we favor a little bit more and maybe not. So let's start a little bit simple. And let's first put all the teams that ended up winning their own region. It's a little crazy that RQ isn't listed here. All jokes aside, honestly, some of these seem a little flipped, right? If you're looking at the history of the teams and some of the remaining members, etc., obviously, Loud continues to be one of the most consistent teams in the world. You look at Paper Rex, who were the reigning 2023 VCT Pacific champions, and then you look at EMEA, and it's like neither of these teams anyone really had ever put at the top of their predictions and tier lists for the entire last year and a half. So that's kind of crazy. I am impressed that Sentinels won it all, but I am not caught off guard by it. I think they've been playing really well, and I think they have. Again, I don't know the exact proportion of calls, but honestly, I'm just going to give the credit to John QT because I think the calls and the reads of the overall, within each round, are so very good. EDG versus FPX, I have some thoughts on this that I know differ from a lot of people. I actually think Fun Plus Phoenix had a bit of a choking problem in the finals, and I think it very well could have at least gone to 5 maps, if not FPX winning it. And I'm not talking about, everyone likes to talk about the round on Breeze where FPX goes to the wrong bomb site. Chichu is so big brain. Wait, are they? No, they know, right? Yeah, they know. Surely they know, but they're so concerned about Chichu now. Maybe they didn't know. I think there's plenty of reasons of why that happened, but I don't that's not the reason they lost, right? If anything, that round happening is kind of a testament to, I think they have a bit of a problem of closing things out. We will also say FPX plays with their own wonky comps. They play very high risk Valorant, which is why I like them. But I will also admit for tier lists and predictions, that does mean they're much more unstable. So we'll keep that in mind. Genji and Paper Rex just got done doing a whole breakdown of Genji's success during kickoff, and going back and looking at it through VODs, I'm actually not surprised now, obviously in hindsight, that Genji won. I don't think it's wow, I still can't believe they won. Now having gone through it, I'm like, oh, it makes sense why Genji won. The question is that going to work on an international stage? Remains to be seen. Meanwhile, Paper X, I think they're shakier than they were for the majority of last year, but by no means a weak team. Now, Carmine Corp and Team Heretics, watched a decent amount, but I'm going to admit not every single match that they have played. But I will say I am mega impressed by Carmine Corp. I think their understanding of not just basic FPS fundamentals, but Valorant fundamentals, their understanding of the maps, the util, the timings, seems to be so good. It seems to be so good. They just seem like a really solid team. We're going to start with some simple things. We're debating for FPX. And I don't think EDG is... Honestly, I don't know if EDG is strong enough to be considered a team that I expect to see in the finals. I'm kind of torn on this, because here's the thing. I think if EDG is going to be up here, I almost want to put FPX up here. I think China overall is going to continue to get very strong. I think they're already at a pretty scary level. But the only thing that is putting a division between these two for now, for me, is just I think FPX just has less consistency. I think they have less consistency, that no matter the circumstances of like the score line, the condition of that day, etc., they're not able to like really pull it together. Personally, I think regardless of the comps and what happened at America's kickoff, Loud, for now I'm gonna put them on. It's just so hard to bet against Loud, and I've done it before, and I've been on the wrong end. And Carmine Corp's kind of my like, yo, I'm really hyped for this team, so I'm really gonna big them up here for the tier list. The Pacific teams, Paper X and Gen G. So listen, if I'm gonna ride the story and the hype of Gen G, I don't think it's crazy to imagine Gen G being the finals, but like I do think it's like cool, right? If Sentinels or Loud make it to the finals, I'm not like, wow, that's so cool. I'm just like, hell yeah, these teams are really strong. Whereas if Gen G made the finals, I'd be like, damn, that's so cool. And maybe that's because I'm from Pacific and we've been starved for like a good representation for a long time, despite Paper X and DRX always being like consistently top 4. Man, but at that point, then who's bottom 4? We've got freaking 7 teams in the top. I'm actually going to put Paper. I don't listen. It's not that I doubt the team's overall potential. I think Paper X will become a top 4 team in the world throughout this year. But I think for Masters Madrid, they're not going to quite figure it out consistently enough. It's hard because EDG doesn't have any roster changes. And at the end of the day, the aim of all members of EDG are so reliable that like it's kind of in some way similar to Gen G. But I guess if I'm comparing them to Gen G, I do think Gen G has a more solid theory behind how they're playing and why they're playing it. So I guess at that point, it's just in my mind, I feel like China should be rated pretty high for this event. I don't know. A lot of people looked at the EDG versus FPX finals and thought, man, China's still so far behind Valorant. And I watched that and I'm thinking, man, I actually think they're going to look really strong like this year. That I hate to do it, but if I'm going to have 4 tiers, I just want everyone to know, if I had to pick one player that I'm cheering for at Masters Madrid, it is the IGL of FPX. It is Berlin. All right. I think this dude has some great ideas. I think he is a mad scientist. And one day he's going to see the light. But that is my copium. And just for all you RRQ haters, this is different from RRQ. I solidly believe that RRQ can still become a top 3 team of Pacific. But FPX is a little bit of copium. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. There is a difference. Only watched the last 2 matches really that Heretics played. It's hard for me to gauge if I'm kind of torn between, basically because I have a pretty good understanding of why I'm putting Gen G in top 4 and why EDG in bottom 4, right? So I'm kind of torn. Am I looking Heretics more similar to Gen G or am I looking at them more similar to EDG, right? The firepower definitely seems to be there, although perhaps that's a little bit of momentum and things like that as well. But again, if you're just relying on firepower and it's just like individual firepower, but across the entire team, I don't think that's as reliable as firepower that you're then setting up for success. For instance, like Paper X used to be like that last year, where, you know, we all like to joke about W Gaming, but there was a very clear way that they were playing to really maximize their strengths of aggression. This year, they haven't really found the right balance yet by adding in Monette, going through a couple row changes. You know, the meta has shifted, especially things like the Sky nerf, etc. Seems to have made them try to consider more different options, things like that. So that's why I would put them here. With Heretics, I'm not sitting here and saying that I like didn't see things at a team level, but at the same time, I do think that perhaps not enough. I know that Carmine Corp comes back and just wins the grand final. Yes, that's true. But does that really mean there has to be a gap like this big? And then, yes, it is also a hometown crowd, right? Which, by the way, I think is a huge effect. I think it's massive. The 2 I'm currently not sure about would be, oh, can I like not take them off once I put them on the board? Clearly, I haven't done enough tier. I'm not a tier list pro. I think I'm cool with Sentinels. It sounds crazy, but I think I'm cool with Carmine Corp just because of the history of the team. But I think the way they play, and then you look at the players they have, you look at what they were able to accomplish, you look at the coaching staff, you look at to me, the greatest teams in the world are the teams where you can watch it and you can like see the thought of the coaches, the players, the IGLs, right? To me, those are the teams where if it just oozes through their gameplay, that's like, damn, this team's good. If you're kind of having to be like, well, is it like, do they just have like really good clutches? Like things like that. That's when it's like, well, they're very skilled, but I don't know if they're a great team. Just ask yourself if Heretics would beat the teams above it in a best of 3. No. Oh, but see, that's where things get a little weird. It's hard with Carmine Corp, but I do think in a best of 3, not a best of 5, right? Because it's all best of 3s to get to the finals. That's a good way to look at it. In a best of 3, put it in relative order as well. Man, poor FPX. See, this is where things get weird. Because do I think Gen G could like confidently beat Sentinels in a best of 3? Not like there's a chance, but do I think they're favored in a best of 3? No. And with Carmine Court, let's just assume. Let's say I'm saying no. But do I think Heretics can confidently beat Gen G in a best of 3? Also no. But did Heretics beat? Obviously, there's matchups. But okay, let's not consider the matchups. Oh, man. Now people are gonna think I hate Paper Rex, but I don't. I love Paper Rex. I think Paper Rex is a great team, and this just makes me sound even weirder. Yeah, best of 3s get a little iffy. I actually almost think Carmine Corp might be like favored in a best of 5, and in some ways, same to Sentinels. Sentinels, Carmine Corp, Loud, Gen G, Heretics, Paper Rex, EDG. This might be, yeah, it's like paper, but it's like if I'm putting Loud in top 4, Paper Rex probably should be top 4. Here's the thing: is I just can't shake the feeling that I think Paper Rex, the same. Listen, I used to rate Paper Rex's W gaming very high. People used to be like, well, they just like W key. They just went off of aim. I didn't think so. I really don't think so. But the thing is, currently, I don't think they've found the right balance. And I think that makes them very unstable, which is why I would put them in a bottom 4. Right? Obviously, they've beaten Gen G in a best of 3. It's this kind of same story as Heretics and Carmine Corp, right? Paper X beat Gen G in the groups 2-1. And then they lost 3-1 in the finals, right? And, same thing with Heretics. They beat Carmine Corp, but the thing is so it's not saying, I'm not saying that obviously it can't happen, but I think Paper X is unstable enough. I think this is it. Let's just explain it, all right? To me, the teams that I think are at the top are teams where, again, you can see their gameplay, like you can see their theory and their fundamentals and their philosophy through their gameplay. They're moving around the map, their understanding of timings, and it doesn't rely on like a single person having to do it, because then it's always going to be late. There's going to be rounds where you miss it, but it's the team kind of all being on the same page. They have the right ideas. They understand what their win conditions are. They are looking to always make that win condition happen, etc. Now, again, if you watched my Gen G breakdown video, Gen G has that, but I think their win condition is kind of limited, and I don't know if it's good enough to beat the international stage, at which point I think they struggle to win consistently against the top teams who seem to have a deeper depth of things like protocols and fundamentals. Now, Loud, I would say part of it is I think they have the right players and the brains to do that, but perhaps it's their comps, right? Personally, I'm a big fan of their compositions, and I'm a big fan of their experiments. I don't think it's quite perfected yet. I think, there are obviously very clear weaknesses and strengths to the comps that they've showed during kickoff. But whether they change that or not, like if they change it, sure, they could always bump up. I don't think you could ever fault anyone for putting Loud up in the top category. But I think for a overall consistency level, we're looking at top 4. That level where they have good understandings, but what they're trying to do may have harder limits than what Sentinels and Carmine Corp showed us during their games. What Sentinels and Carmine Corp showed us during their games is basically, even if our composition is outmatched, or even if, things like that, or we're down numbers, or we don't have ultimates and they have ultimates, their philosophy still revolves around, we always have this win condition. We always have a way to make this an advantage. Then we've got Heretics, EDG, Paper X. These are teams that all have like a mix of both, right? And the ratios are going to be slightly different. But first of all, obviously all very strong teams. and very strong players. And they had some good moments. They have some good understandings, but not consistently enough to my liking across other games. Now, again, this has nothing to do with their actual win record, right? So it's much more about what did the gameplay look like even during their wins. And then FPX is simply, I think the best way to actually look at a team like FPX and this type of tier in a Masters tournament, when you know, like, every team they're the best of the best, right? So clearly they're all very strong. But the best way to look at a team like this and this fourth tier anytime at an international tournament is if things go right, like, they could blow up, right? Like, they have ingredients that could really just explode onto the scene. They have some ideas that can really catch others off guard, etc. But it's also so unstable, and they haven't proven that they have the mental consistency to stay in the game and be consistent enough across all 5 players to really hang with the best of the best. So we're going to put them there. Personally, I'm pretty excited to see what FPX shows us. I think they could make some noise, but again, I think it would be considered noise rather than yeah, that's cool, all right, let's keep going type of situation. I think that's it. I think this is going to be my tier list. After much consideration, the hardest one for me, again, was Team Heretics, I think. Team Heretics and maybe Paper Rex. Who's going to win it all is the question from chat. Who's going to... Oh, we're doing predictions on top of our tier list. I like doing tier lists because I feel like I don't have to make predictions during my tier list. Who do I think is going to be the Masters Madrid champions? It can only be the absolute best team in the world. It's going to be Sentinels. It's so hard to pick, but I'm going to go with Sentinels. I will say this. It's honestly simply because I've seen more of Sentinels starting from the off season. That's literally the reason. You know what? I actually feel okay. Yes, there's always going to be, different opinions. But if you have a different opinion, let me know down in the comments below. Which teams would you change? Who do you think is going to win it all? I'm going to go with Sentinels. No, I'm not trying to farm for clout because they farm their own clout anyway. But at the end of the day, listen, this Masters Madrid, as many people have said, I think is one of the toughest to call. But I think there are going to be slight divisions, and this is how I'm going into it. This is going to be my expectations going in, and then we will see how each team performs based on their expectations. So once again, if you enjoyed this, make sure you leave a like on the video. And of course, I would really appreciate it if you do leave a comment as well, as that helps. And also just share your thoughts. I'd love to hear it, especially from the EMEA teams, because again, I didn't watch as many matches from them. Let me know what you think about the rankings of the EMEA teams. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel as well. That's going to be it for this week, and we'll be back next week with more VCT content.